Hey everyone, I'm Atanu Vadwa and welcome to the United Star. Today, a very special guest has joined me, Jonathan Foster, the host of the All For United WFC, the writer of the United Stand, and a member of the Manchester United Women's Supporters Club, which was formerly the Barmy Army MUWFC. Welcome to the channel, John. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yes, John. So, John, before we start, why don't you tell the viewers something about All for United WFC and your experience talking to various fans from across the world who support the women's team as well?
I think that's the biggest thing, what you just said there. The fact that I can talk to anyone who wants to talk. The wonders of the internet allows us to talk to each other so freely. It allows us to speak to journalists, coaches, agents. And that's great. It's what we need, especially during lockdown where we had 18 months without being able to see each other. But that's what the main thing is for United. It's originated as a men's account. It's got 130,000 followers on Twitter, 3,500 subscribers on YouTube. And we started to do a show once a week, me and Natalie, every Thursday, where we just spoke about the women's team, not just the men's team. And then it fastly got turned into 2 shows a week, and then we're doing 4 or 5 shows a week. And when the season starts, we'll be doing more than 7 shows a week. So it is growing. It's great to interact with so many people, and also allows people to watch content that you couldn't really see 1 or 2 years ago.
Yes, John, definitely. I think the content that you put out on your channel is perfect, and I have been there quite a few times. And on that that note, here's a request to all the viewers watching this video: do subscribe to All for United WFC. The links will be in the description below. And while you're at it, maybe give us a follow on our Instagram handle and Twitter handle, and subscribe to us as well. We are nice people. So, John, moving on, Casey Stoney left the club in May this year after her request for the improvement of the training facilities and the women's team in general were indirectly denied, or they didn't listen to what the idea she was putting forward. And to some extent she took the blame for United not qualifying for the UWCL next season. And as we all know, the resignation of Casey Stoney came as a shock to everyone, be it the players, be it the coaching staff, be it the club, be it the fans. She built this team from the ground up back in 2018 when the team was announced, and in a way, the board sold fake dreams and fake promises to her. I remember in the last game against Leicester City, many fans back in UK were outside the stadium, and they met Casey Stoney, and it was pretty evident that Casey was very emotional, saying goodbye to all the beloved fans, all your beloved fans. And I think the video was recorded by Karen, if I'm not wrong. So, John, what are your thoughts about Casey resigning? And it has exposed the incompetence and the lack of investment of Manchester United Football Club from the board side to the women's team. And what were you feeling on that day when you met Casey Stoney for one last time as the manager of the women's team?
Yes, it started off when the news broke. I mean, it was really emotional. It was shocking. It wasn't something that we expected, but obviously, when you find out the reasons why she left, it's not so surprising. I think for the first 2.5 years, a lot of United fans were very happy with Casey. I think Casey was very happy in herself. It comes across on the interviews. She spoke a lot about long-term plans, a 5-year plan. You could see year by year she was building something, and we as fans were fully behind that. And then you could see over Christmas time, even though we were top of the league, things had started to change a little bit. There was rumblings behind the scenes about an ongoing investigation into the training pitches, about potentially moving to Carrington because we was training at LSB at the time. The weather at that time of the year in the UK isn't good, and LSB wasn't the best for that. So that was obviously one reason that came out at the time. But I just think since then, a lot more reasons have come out, and it's not shining a good light on Man United at all, which is a massive shame. And Casey's got high standards, and she obviously had higher standards than the club. She knew that she could do better than this. And it's probably very frustrating for her knowing that she was a part of an amazing group, part of an even better club, but she still couldn't fulfill what she wanted to receive because of the lack of backing, lack of investment, a different direction, a different vision to what her bosses had, which was very unfortunate. So obviously when she left, a lot of fans were upset. We was all upset. We did a live stream ourselves. It was ad hoc. We wasn't planning on doing anything, obviously. I think it must have been a Wednesday. I'm guessing it was a Wednesday because we didn't have a show on the Wednesday, but we still managed to do one. We had a lot of people watching. A lot of people wanted to join in. They all came on and said their bit. And yeah, I think 95%, if not 100% of the fan base didn't want to see it happen. Obviously, you start to get into it and you start to realise the reasons why. And we could see that she didn't want to leave, but she was kind of forced to leave because it was not what she wanted. But of course, she stood her ground and she just thought that it was time for her to leave. And for me and a few of the other fans who all appear on All For United, we all thought it was a nice way to kind of give her closure and also give us a bit of closure by going to the stadium. Even though we wasn't allowed in, we went to the pub next door, took our laptops and watched the game next door. But then the last 10 minutes, we just stood outside the stadium singing Casey Stoney songs. She heard it. She mentioned it on the post-match interview. Really upsetting for her. Really upsetting for us as well. And then at the end of the game, the players came out. A few of them come over. I think you probably saw the videos on Twitter. And then at the very end, Casey Stoney came over. She was with us for no more than 3 to 5 minutes. Really upsetting, but we all said our part. We had a photo with her. She knocked knuckles with us. And she was upset as well. But one thing she did say was keep on supporting, and that's what we'll do. We'll always support the players. We'll support the future manager. Whether or not we support the leadership of the club, that's something different. But we now have to move on to next season.
Yeah, definitely, John. And I think Casey saying that support the team shows that she loved the club a lot and she'll always be a huge fan of the MUWSC, the All For United, and the Manchester United Football Club as a whole. So, John, a few days back, I don't know if you've seen Adam Crafton, who's a reporter for the Athletic UK, reported that Manchester United women's players are, planning to approach the PFA or the Professional Footballers Association to request advice and, support as they seek to improve the facilities at the club and the club's approach towards the women's team. And in that article, it was also reported that players are frustrated by the club's failure to appoint a new manager, a replacement to Casey Stoney. So, John, if this is true that the players will approach the PFA, then do you think PFA will interfere in this matter? And do you think this is the right decision taken by the players if this is true?
I'd like to think that all the media coverage and the players actually doing this will automatically force the club to act. I think more than anything, the players are disliking the fact that they're kept in the dark. The fact that, journalists come out, they hear stuff, they feed stuff on Twitter, fans hear stuff, things get said in private messages. So I think a lot of things get out, but I think it's the fact that we might hear stuff either before players or secondhand, or we don't hear everything, or the players don't hear everything. So the players want to know what's going on, obviously, for their own careers as well. We've seen 5 players leave already. Don't think that's got anything to do with being kept in the dark. I think that was always in the pipeline. But there's also 2 or 3 other players that should be leaving this season that we've heard that should be leaving, but they haven't been announced yet. They're out of contract. What's going on with those? And these players who are probably going to the PFA are probably players who are thinking about themselves as well. They're probably very good players who may have offers at other clubs. And they deserve to know. So that's just about being kept in the dark, but also, of course, about their training facilities, about where they're staying. This is Manchester United after all, and even though we haven't, as a women's team, probably built up the bank balance that maybe Chelsea, City and Arsenal have built up, we are still a bunch of players who are full-time, who deserve to be looked after just like any other worker. And they obviously feel that they aren't. They don't need to say everything in public on social media. We already know what's going on. We've been saying it for quite a while, but it's just a very big shame it's come to this where players have to go external to seek help, and that's what they're doing. They're seeking advice. All they have to do as a club is just to be open and honest with the players. They don't need to say anything to us. They don't need to say anything to fans, but they do need to say they need to be open and honest to their employees. You can relate it to retail. You can relate it to many jobs. If your bosses aren't open and honest with you, then that's wrong. So, they deserve the utmost respect. I don't think that they're getting it. but I do think that they probably will now. Maybe not as much and as quick as they should get it, but they will get it. And hopefully the managers will be announced to them if they don't know that already, and we can start moving on. Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, John, I think you summed it up pretty well that the players also deserve better, and maybe this is not them approaching the PFA. It is just a story that has been put out to put pressure on the board, sort of an ultimatum that if you don't act, then we'll react. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
I just got to say they've had such bad publicity over the last, well, quite a while since the Glazers have been in charge of the club, but especially this year with the protests invading Old Trafford, we haven't heard much about the women's team, whereas now it's all coming out. So ever since Casey Stoney left, a lot more things have been coming out the woodwork. So to get more bad press now on the women's team, the one side of the club which did have a lot of positivity up until about 6 months ago, you never heard anything negative regarding the women's team at all for 2.5 years. But now all of a sudden you're hearing negative vibes on the women's team as well. What's going to be next? The academy teams, possibly. So I think not only is the men's team in danger of bad publicity now, you've also got it on the women's team. So I think the Glazers have to do something, and hopefully they will.
Yeah, I think you were correct there in saying that the Glazers out movement is something which is solely based on the men's team, but fans are slowly, steadily realizing that it is based on the whole club. Because till January, you rightly said that we haven't heard any negative about Manchester United women's team, and we were top of the table. Both men's team and women's team were at the top of the table at the end of the year, but ever since that, it all went downhill. And well, they also shifted from LSV to Carrington for training facilities. And on 10th July, Katie White, who's a women's football correspondent for the Athletic, and Adam Crafton reported many things which led to the chaos at United in their article for the Athletic UK. So I'll just list out a few of the points, few big key points that were in that article. So it was reported that players contemplated a preseason strike, which basically means that they'll not perform the preseason training as a response to club's failure to, increase the facilities. And also, players weren't given the proper changing areas. They had to change in porta cabins in the car park while they were training over at the Carrington, which is just shameful. We might say that these are the basic thing that a pro footballer needs. Actually, these are the basic thing that a human being deserves. And the pitches used by the women's team over at Carrington suffered drainage issues. So the club made a promise to them that in this off season, which is this period, they'll improve it, and they'll fix all the issues. But a few weeks back, many players reported for the personal training sessions, and they reported that these issues, the drainage issues and the other issues, have still not been fixed. Have still The club hasn't made amends till now. And well, this is just an example of all the fake dreams and promises that they made to Casey back in 2018, and the fake promises that they are making right now. While if the players had to rest, they were given the camping foldable chairs to sit
Mhm.
on, and that is, I mean, it's not disgusting, but it is just at the levels of Manchester United, which is one of the biggest clubs in England, and you treat your women's team like this is just shameful. And it was also reported that Casey was prepared to resign on the eve of the 2-0 defeat to Arsenal in March. And I mean, if it had happened while the season was going on, the repercussions would have been massive, would have been much greater than they are right now. And it was also reported that there were no shower areas. So when the players were moving from the pitch session to the gym session, they couldn't shower and change into a proper set of clothes. They had to go to those temporary cabins which were in the car park at Carrington. So, John, as I'm listing out these things, my heart sank. When I read those things in the Athletic article, my heart sank, and it's like a dagger to my heart seeing my beloved team, the women's team that I support, are treated like this. John, what are your thoughts about this, and what are your reactions to what all has been reported in the Athletic article?
Yeah, I think a lot of those things probably are correct. Well, they are correct. We're hearing things from January right up until now, and I think what the Athletic have done this week across two articles He's basically done a good job of summarising everything, but also it has scaremongered quite a bit. It has sensationalised a lot of stuff. Regarding players going on strike, I don't even know if that is actually correct. I mean, how do we actually know that players have done that or say that they're doing that? I'm not too sure about that side of things. Potentially, there's a leak there with players who are out of contract who may have gone to the Athletic or they may have gone to somebody. That could have happened. But I would like to say that I haven't actually heard or I'm not aware of anything regarding going on strike potentially. But I think that would be kind of out of character. I don't think that it's actually needed. However, all the stuff regarding the training facilities is absolutely outrageous. It's disgusting. I can't believe that it's been going on for so long. The housing as well, the housing situation isn't great. And when you start talking about showering, I think the club's comeback was something along the lines of, well, Paul Pogba was exactly the same. He had to travel 10 minutes before he could have a shower as well. Casey Stoney, yeah, so back in March, she found out her budget for the following season and obviously wasn't happy with it. That's probably may have been the final straw. She would have already knew what the facilities was like back then. So yeah, I think we knew for a while because there was a pre-match press conference. I think it was maybe Bristol, where she was asked about her budget, and she was quite open, saying that the top three had a far bigger budget than her, and that was before the fact that we knew that we wasn't going to get into the Champions League. But obviously, the Champions League didn't help because the Champions League would have gave you an extra 300 grand. So that would have obviously helped us a little bit. Whether or not we would have spent that 300 grand is completely different. But yeah, going back to obviously the training facilities and everything that the guys are going through, I just think it's you don't really hear anything when everything's going well, but then when things aren't going well, it's one thing gets leaked, and then you start digging and you find something else, and you find something else, and before you know it, people are looking forward to actually telling you even more information, and now the Athletics got a hold of 10 bullet points there, if not more, which are probably all correct, and it's just not great reading at all. COVID situation didn't help. The fact that you got a social distance, you got three or four squads in there with the academy teams, the men's team and the women's team all trying to fit into Carrington. I appreciate it's hard, but every other club has to find a way as well. And it's just not good. As you mentioned, Manchester United, a fantastic club, a big club. They shouldn't be treating their women's team like this at all. And it's just all come out now, hasn't it? And United need to find a way very quickly to get fans back on board, but more importantly, get their own players back on board.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I really liked about Casey is she was open in the press conferences, and a lot of things haven't been broadcasted over here. Maybe it has been broadcasted over there, but the exposure to women's football is increasing day by day, and we have seen there is a new broadcasting deal between Sky Sports, the BBC, and the FAWSL, if I'm not wrong. So as a result of this, many things will be shown on camera: the training pitches, the gym facilities, basically what is going behind the scenes. Much more exposure will be given to women's football, and well, in this is a way in which this broadcasting deal might throw some spotlight on how United actually treat its women's team, and this will bring a lot of scrutiny with it. And well, we all know that United don't actually treat their women's team well. Maybe the men's team also they don't treat well, because you said that a report came out which said that Paul Pogba also faced same issues, but I don't think that's the reality. And well, it will bring a lot of scrutiny with it, because United, all the women's teams will be under a spotlight of broadcasting deals, because right now, well, in my case, or in your case as well, the matches are being broadcasted live on the FA Player app or the MUTV, but now it will be broadcasted on a national television like a Sky Sports or the BBC. So it will bring a lot of spotlight, it will bring a lot of exposure. So,
Yeah.
John, do you think this is a wake-up call for the board to start making amends before their reputation is further tarnished due to this broadcasting deal?
I think it's a wake-up call to a lot of clubs, not just United. I think when Sky get involved, first things first, you've got to make sure that the matches are on. And the amount of cancellations in the WSL and the Championship because of bad weather or the pitch is just not good enough. It's too many, and obviously Sky won't put up with that if they're advertising a football match to be on Sunday 4 p.m. our time, then they'll expect a match to go ahead. So I think a lot of clubs will have a bit of a wake up call. As for United, yeah, the spotlight will be on. I think that United, since they've joined back in 2018, they've helped grow the WSL. They've helped grow women's football in England, and it's not, of course, just United, but United do bring a lot of fans. They do bring a lot of interest, and they can bring a lot of money in as well. So I think Sky will obviously focus on United more than the majority of teams. Not every team, but the majority of teams. We've obviously got the derby there against City. Casey obviously just leaving. All the news that's going on recently. I think unfortunately we've got a lot of press at the moment, and it's quite negative, and we know that the media will jump on that. Whether or not you'll see cameras behind the scenes at like training facilities, maybe not in the first season, but if Sky do get into it and they start doing interviews like midweek before matches, they may start going there. I don't know if they'll actually start coming out and start talking about the training facilities as much, just because they're airing the matches, but it's definitely there, isn't it? And the cameras will be there, and let's be honest, Sky will start digging. They'll be on Sky News more, not just Sky Sports. They'll be on Sky Sports News. So I think it's a wake-up call to everybody, and there's still a lot to be done. Whether or not we've actually got the talent above the manager to actually know what leadership to take, to know what direction to take, because I do think Casey done a lot more than just coaching the team and taking the training sessions. I think he's done things a lot higher. And now John Murto has moved across into a different role in the past few months. He's come away from the women's team, and he's obviously got bigger fish to fry when it comes to not just the women's team, but also to look after the men's team as a sporting director. So it does make you wonder who above the manager now is actually leading this women's team. To me, somebody who isn't trained, who isn't knowledgeable, who probably doesn't want the job, but is kind of landed in the job. And we need to hire someone quickly, I think, to either to support the manager or get a very experienced manager in who can kind of do both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. So, John, one last thing. We know that these current issue, blighting the women's team, follow on from the club's owners, the Glazers family. And of course, any club would hate negative PR, and United are a club that are getting negative PR only right now. Ever since that European Super League was, discussed, and it was formed for the men's team, and discussions were going on for forming it for the women's team as well. There has been a lot of anger among the coaching staff, the playing staff, and the fans as well. So, what is on your mind related to Glazers Out movement in general?
Yeah, so regarding the Glazers Out movement, I think it has a lot of momentum. I think pundits got involved. Gary Neville was very vocal. I think a lot of people got on board who was in the media, which I think fans are very grateful for, because they've got a voice, a very powerful one. I think we've got something like 100,000 signatures for one of the protests, and it was great
Sign
to see.
for United, I think.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we had the 50+1 campaign as well. There's so much going on. We had 2 protests. One was very successful. The other one kind of fizzled away a little bit. But I think what has happened now with the Euros and with the Sancho deal, I don't think people have forgotten, but I think the momentum's kind of lost. Me personally, I think the momentum's gaining, because the momentum now has come onto the women's team. So I think, we're kind of hearing about the women's team not being cared about, the all red, all equal slogan kind of, well, where's that gone now? Because we're definitely not all red, all equal at the moment on what we're hearing. But I think at the moment, I don't really think too much is going to happen. I think potentially if the transfer window for the men's team isn't as successful as fans would like, then perhaps things will start to happen again. But I can see it just kind of fizzling away now. We've seen the stadium being painted a little bit, which is obviously one of the things that we requested in the forum. We wanted to see glamour signings, but even so, Sancho's arriving, that should have been a signing that should have happened a year ago. So where's our signing? Where's all the money from this year that we've just earned? I think there's still a hell of a lot of work to do, but I think Glazers probably at the moment are just about keeping afloat.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Glazers Out movement shouldn't be just about the men's team. It should be about the academy, the women's team, and the club as a whole. So on this note, here's my request to all the viewers who are who are tuning in to watch this video, start supporting women's football, start supporting your women's team as well. Even if you're a Chelsea fan, start supporting the Chelsea women's team. If you're a United fan, start supporting them, because you see, when you start supporting a women's team as well, your world brightens up, and you have two teams to support, and you have two teams to look up to. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And John, thank you so much for coming on the channel. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Guys, you know what to do. Subscribe to All For United WFC. I've been there quite a few times on the Friday Nights Fans Forum. And trust me, it's a brilliant experience talking to fellow United fans. And, Jonathan Foster, a brilliant host on the All For United. And, I'm no expert in women's football, but I keep on learning through these videos that Jonathan does live on the channel. And, through Twitter. Many fans are there who are supporting the women's team. So maybe you guys who are watching this can join in as well and start supporting All For United WFC and the United Star.
Yeah, thank you for that. Can I just say that I'm continuously learning as well? So with the guests that we have a very knowledgeable guest. We have journalists, we have fans who've supported women's football for years, not just Man United women's fans. So for obviously you said that you're learning, we're learning as well. Me, Natalie, all the presenters, all the hosts with me, we're all learning as well. And it's a great position to be in, to be able to chat to so many different people.
Yes, John, it's definitely a wonderful experience, talking to fellow fans. And on that note, thank you so much, John, for coming on the channel. We are the United Star. You do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do check us out on our Instagram and Twitter. Do follow Jonathan Foster on his Twitter. We'll add the link in the description below. Subscribe to All For United WFC, and we'll see you next time.